Welcome to our analysis of Algeria, Egypt, and Morocco. The purpose of this report is to take a deeper look into the regions and nature of infrastructure of these countries, as well as to find the past and current trade relationships between these countries and the United States. Earlier in this class, we learned that the North African region had not yet been analyzed in this context. Take a look at the differences between these general financial measures. Although different measures of the economy, the amount that each country contributes to these various areas indicates their financial strengths as well. For example, Egypt is contributing $500 million each year to their military efforts as they are not on good terms with Ethiopia over their control of the Nile Dam, and Morocco contributes $60 million. Keep this in mind moving forward. The story of Africa is intense as it deals with the colonization and succeeding decolonization of individual African regions. Most of these countries were at one point controlled by developed world powers like Spain and Great Britain. They brought government and infrastructure to Africa. The decolonization of the regions left Africa lacking government structure. This means that these countries are very young and are still in their development phases. Our first country we analyzed was Algeria. It is located in North Africa, between Morocco and Tanzania. It's mostly landlocked, but a small portion of its northern region does have access to the Mediterranean Sea, leading to most of their trade through seaports. It's the largest country in Africa by land area. Algeria's population is approximately 46 million. With a growth rate of 1.65% per year, they are expected to pass 60 million people by 2049. The government is working in large part to control the population growth, as this would allow Algeria to keep up with social and economic changes and cut back on poverty. Take a look at the age distribution. More young people equals a greater workforce for the next few decades. Algeria's capital is Algiers, a bustling seaside city with a historic core surrounded by skyscrapers and apartment blocks. Being that Algiers is the largest economy, it contains the largest infrastructure facilities in the country. Algiers is an important economic, commercial, and financial center with a stock exchange capitalized at 60 million euros. The US and Algeria have a long trade relations, dating back to the 1795 Treaty of Peace and Amity. Modern diplomatic relations began in 1962 when Algeria gained independence from France. The US is one of Algeria's top trading partners, particularly in the hydrocarbon sector. Early trade involved commodities like olive oil, dates, and textiles. Over time, the focus shifted to energy products, particularly oil and gas, from Algeria and Libya. Reason being, the climate in Algeria, specifically during the season of harvest, is dry, hot, with little rain. They need to import more food to make up for this unreasonable climate. Algeria has been its accession into the World Trade Organization since 1987. The process resumed in the World Trade Organization in 1995 with the first meeting of the Working Party on Accession held in 1998. Algeria has a dense roadwork of 109,000 kilometers, making road transport the primary mode of transportation. Algeria's 5,200-kilometer rail network is managed by the National Company for Rail Transport. The main rail line runs from the Moroccan to the Tanzanian border with branches to port cities and some towns. Algeria's commercial trade is largely moved through its 11 commercial ports, including Algiers, Oran, and Annaba. Algeria is also actively working to reduce hydrocarbons, oil and gas by diversifying its economy. The country is focusing on developing sectors such as renewable energy and technology. Our second chosen country is Morocco. It's located in North Africa, bordering the Atlantic Ocean, creating natural trade infrastructure through seaports. Morocco's population is about 38 million people. They became independent from French and Spain influence in 1961. This happened during the decolonization of Africa. The serious political developments in the continent where former world superpowers control the socioeconomics of Africa. As improvements in education infrastructure typically require action and funding through a state or local government, something which Africa was left nothing of after their decolonization, their economy got off to a slow start. Morocco's population is young, which means a greater workforce and a greater demand for goods. As we'll see in their trading history, a younger workforce is able to pump out finished goods more efficiently and attract a consumer market to Morocco. Top exports of Morocco include vehicles, electrical machinery, and fertilizers. Combined, this makes up about 49.9% of Morocco's total exports. Ironically, top 3 imports are mineral fuels, electrical machinery, and machinery including computers, making up 36.8% of total imports. Being that Morocco's location is right on the coast, Europe side, they are a direct hub to export those finished goods, like vehicles and machinery. To build, they need the oil, hence most of their imports. The trade relationship between the US and Morocco is continually positive. In 1991, they had a bilateral investment treaty and free trade agreement. A bilateral investment treaty promotes US exports and marketing orientations of partner countries, in this case Morocco. And continuing with the relationship of the U.S. economy and Morocco, 25% of Moroccans participate in online shopping, which means that U.S. marketers have direct access to the consumer market 25% of the population of Morocco to sell to. Infrastructure in Morocco includes transportation of goods to continue to stimulate the economy. Currently, there are 1,100 miles of modern road, 800 tracks with 120 railroad stations, and 27 commercial ports that handle 192.1 million tons in merchandise traffic. Take a look at the chart. There is not one specific type of ship that defines Morocco's waterway infrastructure. This diversification between the oil tankers, bulk carriers, general cargo, and container ships represents a variety of trade of imports and exports. It is also important to note that being decolonized in 1961 and already being able to effectively manufacture finished goods and have solid trade relationships with older countries is a significant accomplishment for Morocco. The third country is Egypt. Commonly known for its pyramids, they also have a significant impact on Africa's general economy and trade infrastructure. About 43% of the Egyptian population lives in urban areas. The other 57% live in rural areas close to the Nile River, which provides water and fertile land. As with Algeria, a younger population means more workforce in the future. And as with most African countries, greater populations most often mean weaker health systems, more poverty, and a greater demand for goods and services. This ties directly back to the idea that these countries are too young due to their recent decolonization. Egypt's infrastructure and transportation consist of well-developed networks of roads, railways, and airports. The Suez Canal connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea and acts as a trading point. They rely on the Nile River for hydroelectric power. The Nile River is crucial for drinking water, agriculture, and the industry. Most of the population lives near the Nile. The top two imports Egypt, mineral products and metals, with top two exports mineral products and metals, top two imports vegetable products and transportation equipment. Note that in the beginning we mentioned that Egypt was having some intense relationships with Ethiopia over control of the Nile, hence their enlarged military spending. Increase in vegetable imports by Egypt represents their struggle to benefit from the proximity of the Nile and agricultural benefits there. Trade has grown over the years with significant exports of hydrocarbons from Algeria to the US. Ongoing international trade agreements have strengthened economic ties. Almost three-quarters of Egyptians have access to the internet, with 20% having access to online markets. Significant potential for internet-based marketing with a growing number of internet users engaging in e-commerce is possible here. Egypt's trade agreements are quite similar to Morocco's. Both are involved with a bilateral investment treaty, which allows the US to promote their own exports. Notice, however, that although the BIT exists since 1982, imports from the US have decreased by 30%, and the deficit between the US and Egypt shrank by 42%. This may allude to the idea that Egypt's trade infrastructure is slowly expanding and becoming much more efficient, causing them to not have to rely on the US as much as they did before. Now, this, taking into account that their recent decolonization should set them back, both infrastructurally and with their legal body, Egypt has actually taken off and exploded compared to Algeria and Morocco, the other two countries we've already analyzed. When we're looking at these countries, we notice that, yes, they were trying to install some technological advancements and working through renewable energy. However, none of them has shrank the gap between imports between the US and their country like Egypt and the US have. Like we previously stated, Egypt's trade infrastructure is slowly expanding and becoming more efficient, which causes them not to have to rely on the US, which is impacting their strength as a country, recently decolonized. The BIT and TIFA, these agreements have significantly enhanced economic ties, promoting free trade and increasing investment flows between the two countries. The regional trade agreements that Egypt is also a part of. They're part of it multiple regionally and bilateral trade agreements, increasing its access to European, African, and Middle Eastern markets. Remember that Egypt is in close proximity to the Muslim communities, also why they're spending so much defensively, because they are close on both sides, both their top and left and right side. As we dive deeper into our analysis of Algeria, Egypt, and Morocco, keep in mind that most of these African countries were colonized at one point or another and decolonized in the mid-1900s. Compared to some other regions studied in this class, like the European regions, African infrastructure and trade are not deeply rooted. Instead, it is an ongoing process to perfect a system that works best for all countries involved. Thank you for watching.